Hi, everybody. Welcome to the LSUA Financial Aid webinar. We're so excited that you all decided to join us tonight, and we hope that you get a lot of good information out of this, and we hope that we can answer any questions that you may have. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A function that you see at the bottom of your screen, so that way we can answer them at the end of the presentation. So we are going to go ahead and get started with some introductions. So first off, I will let Jeffrey Massey introduce himself. He's our Director of Financial Aid. So Jeff?
Yeah, I'm Jeffrey Massey, Director of Financial Aid at LSUA, and we thank you for joining us. And again, hopefully we're able to provide some information that will help move along through the financial aid process. So thank you very much.
And tonight we also have with us Dominique Haley. Dominique?
Hi, I'm an enrollment coach with LSUA's online programs. I'm just here to answer any questions, maybe about Veterans Aid Financial that I have from personal experience, and just be a resource to the students in any way possible.
And we also have with us Trish Woodworth. Trish?
Hi, my name is Trish Woodworth, and I'm a student success coach for LSU Online at LSUA. I work with learners from the time that they're admitted up until the time that they complete their degree. And oftentimes financial aid is one of the topics that pops up during our calls. So I'm glad to be here for you. If you have any questions for me, I'll answer in the chat. Thank you.
And I am Bailey Piku. I am also a student success coach with LSU Online and LSUA, and I will be your moderator for tonight. And I am excited to answer any questions that you guys may have in relation to LSUA and LSU Online that I may have an answer to. So without further ado, let's get started. And Jeff, I'll let you take it away.
All right, thank you very much. And again, thank you for joining us. We know that financial aid can be a confusing process sometimes, or a lot of the times. And hopefully this will help kind of help guide you through the process, answer any questions that you have. Of course, as mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to submit those and we'll answer those as best as we're able to do so. But as you see, that's our financial aid team, which this information is also on our website, lsua.edu. We have our staff members that helps process the financial aid with the Pell Grant, student loans, and all that we'll talk about. But again, their information is available on our website there. All right. So we're just kind of getting into it. If you're to apply for financial aid, which we'll talk about the FAFSA in a second, but students are required to sign up for, and parents, if they have to use the parental information on the FAFSA, they have to sign up to receive or sign up for their FSA or Federal Student Aid ID. Student has to do that, and again, a parent has to do that also if they're having to use the parent's information on the FAFSA. So use it to sign the FAFSA along with the other documents. If the student takes out student loans, they use that for master promissory notes. Would go to studentaid.gov, and there's an option for create account, and we just choose that option and just follow that process there. One of the biggest issues that we see with helping students, and it's not necessarily students when they first sign up for the FSA ID, but it's maybe in subsequent years when they're trying to complete the FAFSA, is the password. So make sure that you remember that password. So that'll save you a lot of time and grief down the road. But once you do the FSA ID, you should go on to be able to complete the FAFSA. FAFSA is a free application for federal student aid. You can go to studentaid.gov, apply for aid. And for the current year that we're in, the academic year, which is fall 23, spring 24, summer 24, you want to complete the 2023 FAFSA or 2023-2024 FAFSA. And it's going to be requesting your 2021 tax information on that. And again, that's good for this fall that we're currently in, spring and summer of 2024. And we will be, come the next month or so, they haven't given us an exact date, but for fall of 2024, that FAFSA will be available in December, which will be the 2024-2025 FAFSA. And they should be letting us know here shortly when that FAFSA is going to be available. So. And once you do the FAFSA, you only need to do it once per academic year. We get questions sometimes, well, I did my FAFSA, got my financial aid for fall, do I need to do it again for the spring semester? So if you did the FAFSA, once you do a FAFSA, it's good for one academic year. So if you do it for fall 23, then that FAFSA is going to cover you for fall 23, spring 24, and summer 24. Again, you're not having to do it again until for the following fall. So, all right. What happens in some cases, whenever you complete the FAFSA, submit it, that information is sent to the schools. There are times when some of those FAFSAs are chosen for a process called verification. And what that is, the Department of Ed requires us to verify some information that is put on that FAFSA. And we have to verify income information sometimes and household information on there. And when you're completing the FAFSA, you'll see as you get to the income information or the tax information, it's going to give you the option to potentially link to the IRS. And it'll let you go there and then potentially pull your information from the IRS and pull that information onto your FAFSA. And if you're able to do that, definitely take advantage of that opportunity. That way we know the income on the FAFSA is correct, and that's going to be more than likely less documentation we may be required to retrieve from the student and or parent. So, but if we get the FAFSA, you're chosen for verification, we're going to notify you that we need some documentation. And if you get that, make sure you get that notification, make sure to get that to us as soon as possible so that we can get the information, we can make any adjustments if needed as we compare the information that we receive to what's on the FAFSA. That way, if it does change anything, because sometimes we get information from the student and what we receive is different than what was put on the FAFSA. And then that does potentially affect the student's eligibility for Pell Grants, work studies, and subsidized loan eligibility. So again, if you are chosen for verification and we are requesting documentation, please get that to us as soon as possible. So when you complete the FAFSA, it's going to tell you, and you submit it, it's going to tell you if you qualify for Pell Grant. If you do qualify, at least for this year, it's up to $7,395 per year. And that's typically split in half, divided in two per semester. Now, students can qualify for any amount up to that. That $7,395 is the max that a student can receive per year. So, but that's based on the information submitted on the FAFSA. Typically, the higher the income, the less likely the student will qualify for Pell or less Pell, and then the lower the income, the more likely the student will qualify for Pell and more Pell. There is a limit on a lifetime limit on Pell Grant that the students can receive. They limit that up to 6 years of full-time enrollment. Federal work study, that's would be for students that, and typically that's reserved for students that are on campus, so that maybe not necessarily would apply to our online population, but that's where students could work on campus jobs, make a little extra money while they're in school, working 20 hours a week, kind of help out with living expenses there. So, okay. Student loans. If you're awarded the student loan, you have to complete a master promissory note and entrance counseling at studentaid.gov, and then the options for loans and grants. When we get your FAFSA and if we have a valid FAFSA on file and the student is admitted, then we're going to award a student loan automatically on the student's account. We put the loan in a pending status, so we don't accept the loans for the student. The student has to actively accept those loans, and but if they accept the loans, then they have to do this master promissory note and entrance counseling at the studentaid.gov, the loans and grants, which that goes back again to the FSAID, having that in place, and then we. When the student accepts those loans, we have information as far as where the student would be. We have a link to the studentaid.gov that student can go to complete the master promissory note entrance counseling. But if you get a student loan, it's deferred as long as you maintain a half-time enrollment status, that being 6 hours. Repayment on student loans typically begins 6 months after a student graduates or drops below half-time. Doesn't include summer terms. So, for example, if a student attended a fall and a spring semester and had student loans, and they decided to take a break during the summer or enroll in less than 6 hours during the summer, as long as the student enrolls the following fall in at least 6 hours, then that student loan will remain what's called the in-school deferment. So, simple interest does accrue on an unsubsidized loan, which there's two types of loan. The subsidized loan, which means the government pays an interest for the student while they're in school. Unsubsidized loan, the government does not pay interest for the student while they're in school. So the current interest rate's 5.5%. And on the loans, the Department of Ed has, they charge an origination fee. So whenever we award the loan, we receive the loan from the Department of Ed and we put it on your account as a disbursement. The Department of Ed is holding out that 1.057% of an origination fee. So meaning they're holding out about $10 per thousand that the student receives. Parent Plus loan, that's a loan that a parent can take out to help cover the cost of a student's education. Sometimes, you know, with the student loan that the student can take out, it doesn't cover the full cost of the tuition and fees. And so in that case, the parent, if they choose to, they can take out a loan that will help cover those costs. It is credit-based. Repayment begins 60 days after last disbursement of the year, meaning if they have a loan for fall and spring, then after the spring disbursement, the parent would go into repayment on that loan 60 days after that. Or the parent could tie the repayment to when the student goes into repayment on their loan. But parents will have an option they'll make the choice whenever they apply for the loan. Interest rate is a little bit higher on those, 8%. Origination fee is higher also, 4.228. And would apply at studentaid.gov loans and grants, and the parent must complete a Parent Plus master promissory. TOPS, this is Louisiana residents only for anybody that may be joining us that is not a Louisiana resident. And it's for recent high school graduates. And you qualify for it upon graduating high school, provided the students meet the ACT and high school GPA requirement, which you have to have at least a 20 in high school ACT and a 2.5 high school GPA on the TOPS for curriculum. Now, the TOPS will pay $2,447 per semester at LSUA, plus the stipends. If they qualify for that, the stipends it can require a higher GPA in high school and ACT requirement. The honors pays an additional $400 per semester. That requires a 27 ACT and I think a 3.5 high school GPA on the core curriculum. And the performance requires a 23 ACT and a 3.25 high school GPA on the core curriculum. Pays up to 8 semesters. We also have TOPS Tech, which pays up to $2447 per semester. That's for associate degree programs in rad tech, nursing, and medical lab science. It pays $2447 in rad tech, $1190 per semester in nursing, and $1190 in the associate of science and the medical lab science. Yeah. Once TOPS posts that final eligibility for high school students, and once they graduate in May, June, thereabouts, then typically within 3 to 4 weeks or so after that point, TOPS will start making those eligibility determinations, and then we will start loading in rosters and posting those awards for the students. So once notified, students will receive a rights and responsibilities letter or email. Just make sure that you do receive that, you qualify, that you read through that, make sure that you understand that, because they do hold you to that. And the TOPS requires students to be enrolled full-time in 12 or more hours, or at least 12 hours, each fall and spring semester, through the start of the 15th day of class. For the online students, you have the ELF, the eLearn 1 and eLearn 2. As long as you're 12 or more hours between any of those terms or sessions, that we don't care if it's 3 hours eLearn 1, 9 hours eLearn 2, or any combination of the two. As long as you're 12 or more hours, then you meet that full-time enrollment requirement. TOPS does require students to earn 24 hours per year. If they don't earn the 24 hours per year, then they lose their TOPS unless there's some exceptional circumstances or extenuating circumstances that keeps the students from doing that. And TOPS does have an exception request the student can fill out and submit to them with supporting documentation. CLEP courses do not count toward that. So basically the students have to actually sit in the class or complete the class and earn those hours during the semester. GPA requirement, you got to have a 2.5 by the end of the first year for TOPS Tech. For the TOPS Opportunity, you got to have a 2.3 overall GPA up to 47 earned hours, and a 2.5 GPA afterwards. Performance and honors, you got to have a 3.0 overall GPA, and they do look at the GPA at the end of each fall, and required to have a 2.0 GPA by the end of each fall. A little more lenient with the GPA as far as permanently losing TOPS. If the student doesn't have the GPA by the end of each fall or end of the year, and as long as they're earning their hours, they'll suspend TOPS, but not necessarily take it away permanently. They give a student up to 2 years to regain the required GPA TOPS. And any hours earned as a high school student, now while in high school, the dual enrolled classes, those will count toward your TOPS GPA once you begin enrolling and earning credits while in college after graduation. You want to use the summers if you are needing to earn hours to get to your 24 hours. So if a student, say between fall and spring, they didn't earn their 24 hours and earned 18 or 21 between the fall and spring, they want to use the summer to get that 24 hours. Because otherwise, again, if you don't, unless there's some exceptional circumstances, then, or extenuating circumstances, then the student will lose their TOPS permanently. So use the summers. You also can use it to help boost your GPA if needed. So we have the TOPS information there. And definitely take note of that. But definitely stay on top of the TOPS. There's our contact info there. One thing I didn't mention or go over, or just kind of refresh on the student loans, is amounts the students can receive. And as a freshman, if you're a dependent student, you can receive up to $5,500 per year. Dependent again, meaning they have to list the parental information on the FAFSA. That's $5,500 per academic year. If you're independent, you can get up to $9,500 per year. And you're a freshman until you earn 30 hours, so 0 to 29 hours, you're a freshman. 30 to 59 hours. As you're a sophomore, you can get up to $6,500 per year as a dependent and $10,500 per year as an independent student. And then once you earn 60 or more hours and you're a junior and then a bachelor's program, you can get up to $7,500 per year as a dependent, $12,500 per year as an independent student. And there's a lifetime limits for dependent students, $31,000. And then for independent students can get up to $57,500. So kind of the process, what happens is as you apply for admissions and you're accepted, and then once you are admitted, if you're a first-time freshman, then we have an application on file, admissions application on file, and a valid FAFSA. We're going to go ahead and package the student loans for you and put them in that pending status, and then give you an opportunity to review those and accept or decline on the student loans. If you're a transfer student or a reentry student, then once you've applied and you're completely admitted, then at the point that you're completely admitted, meaning admissions has all of your documentation, as far as transcripts and all that's been reviewed, then at that point, we're going to review your transcripts and then award the financial aid at that point if you meet the academic requirements to receive financial aid, which we require a 2.0 overall GPA to receive financial aid. We also look at hours attempted and hours earned, and the students are required to have earned at least 67% of all hours attempted. And we base that off of whatever's put on the LSUA transcript from any of the school's transcripts. And the third requirement we look at is overall amount of hours attempted. And that requirement is the student cannot have attempted more than 150% of the hours in the degree program that they are currently enrolled in. So meaning the student applies, is accepted, and they are major in, just say, in English, a bachelor's degree of English. That degree program requires 120 hours to receive the degree according to the degree audit. Then we have to look at 150% of 120, or 120 times 1.5, that's 180 hours. And that's going to be the same pretty much for all of our bachelor's programs. So basically, then we're looking to see, has that student attempted 180 hours or more? And if so, then student would not meet the academic requirements. And if the student doesn't meet either one or any combination of all three of those requirements, we would notify the student, and then they would have the opportunity to submit an appeal. And then any other documentation that they feel would help in support of the appeal, and we would have a committee review that and then let the student know the outcome. So anyway, just want to go over that. But that's all we have.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all of that, Jeff. I think that was a lot of good information and very informative. I know I learned a lot about financial aid that I didn't know, and I went through 4 years of undergrad and I'm in grad school and now working for LSU Online as a SSC, so I learned a lot. So now we will move into our Q&A portion. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to utilize the question and answer button at the bottom of your screens to input your questions so that way we can answer them. I did have one question. If a student is a Louisiana resident that just graduated high school, but say they wait a semester to start school, would they still be eligible for TOPS if they sat out a semester?
Yes, they would. TOPS allows students, just under normal circumstances, up to 1 year from the time they graduate. So if you had a student, say that graduated in spring or May of 2023, they qualify for TOPS. And then they could sit out up to fall of 23 and spring of 24. And as long as they begin enrolling by fall of 2024, then they would be eligible, to be okay to use their TOPS. So yes, they could. They do have some exceptions that could potentially extend that. Again, if there was extenuating circumstances, or if somebody, if the student enrolled in the military, and did, had to go to training or was on active duty, they have exceptions for those. But yes, the student can sit out for up to 1 year under normal circumstances and then be okay to use it. Good question.
Awesome. So we have some questions in the Q&A box. The first one is, as a MBA student, how does financial aid work per course load? For example, they take 2 courses.
That's going to be a little bit out of our realm here because we do not do graduate with the MBA. We don't do the graduate programs. From my experience and having worked in the past with graduate, that typically they only qualify for unsubsidized loans. There may be some assistantships, typically for students living on campus or able to attend on campus. But normally, otherwise, the student only qualifies for an unsubsidized loan. I think the max is $20,000 or $20,500 per year, and you still have to meet the half-time enrollment requirement, like an undergraduate student, and that's going to depend on the institution's definition of half-time, and that may vary by institution. So I think typically that's still 6 hours per semester for graduate schools. But I think as long as you're at least 6 hours, and again, that's something you want to verify with, if it's LSU or LSUS or whoever the school is, you want to verify what their definition of half-time is. But as long as you're at 6 hours, you should be able, or the halftime status would be able to receive the unsubsidized loan. And again, I think that max per year is 20,000 or 20,500 per year.
Awesome.
Hope that helps.
And then our next question is, can I receive a Pell Grant as a retired person?
Yes, as long as you've not received a prior bachelor's degree, you can, and it's going to be based off of the information submitted on the FAFSA. So you'd have to submit the FAFSA where the Pell Grant is based off of income information as far as your taxes, if you file taxes. And if the student didn't file taxes, there's an option for that information to be inputted on the FAFSA as well that you didn't file taxes. So, but just being retired itself doesn't preclude a student from receiving Pell Grant. It's going to be again based as long as you've not received a prior bachelor's degree, and if you would qualify based off income information as reported on the FAFSA.
Awesome. And then our next question is, I recently got accepted into LSUA for spring 2024. I'm going to update my FAFSA in December as advised. I was wondering if I am eligible for the FAFSA grants or just the loans, or should I postpone my enrollment until next fall to have access to the full FAFSA?
So the FAFSA for spring is, you can do that one now if you've not done that one. That's the 2023-2024 FAFSA. And again, as far as if you qualify for Pell Grant, I mean, that's going to be based off that information that you submit on there. And the FAFSA that's going to be available in December is going to be for fall of 2024. So, but if you've not done the 2023-2024 FAFSA, go ahead and do that one. That one is available now that you can use for spring 24 and summer 24. And then, once we get that, then we can see what you do qualify for as far as Pell Grant and or student loans. So, and then, too, I mean, if you want us, we can look at your particular, if you've already done the FAFSA, if you want us to look at that, we can do that. If you wanted to, email the office, the financial aid office at financialaid@lsua.edu, and just put your information there, and we can look that up just to see. Or you could call the office on our main line is 318-473-6423. So again, the email is financialaid@lsua.edu, and the phone number is 318-473-6423.
Right, that's all the questions we have right now. Does anybody else have any questions that they would like to put in the chat? While we wait to see if anybody else has any other questions, I came up with another one. It would be, when does a student have to register for classes in order to get financial aid information from LSUA?
Well, as far as what they potentially qualify for, it would have to apply. I mean, no, student could fill out the FAFSA and we could receive it without them having applied, and then we could look at it to see based off of what's submitted on the FAFSA, yeah, that you would qualify potentially for this. So we could say, hey, on the FAFSA, potentially says you qualify for X amount of Pell Grant, or you may receive, however much of a student loan, or both of those. We wouldn't be able to say for sure if you actually could receive it, because we do have to review, making sure that they meet the academic requirements if it is a transfer student. Because they do have to meet those academic requirements. But we absolutely could look at it and see, yeah, this is potentially what you would qualify for, assuming you meet the academic requirements.
Awesome.
Hi, Jeff. I thought of a question. Oftentimes during my calls, I work with a lot of Guild students, and they often ask or don't seem to quite understand why they are required to complete the FAFSA, since their tuition's being paid by Guild. And so I didn't know if there was a financial aid reason or.
I've not been part of the discussions as far as why they make them, but my assumption is what Guild does, from what I understand, is they will pay what's left. So if a student receives a Pell Grant, then that factors in how much they will pay, or the company will pay. So if the students, for example, tuition fees is $3,000, and then student receives a Pell Grant of whatever, $2,500, then Guild would then maybe pay the $500 difference. So they're wanting to see, I believe, how, if the student qualifies for Pell Grant, and if they do, then they will pay what's left, potentially of what the Pell Grant doesn't cover. So basically, it's just to keep them from overpaying, I guess. And where, that same scenario, where if the student qualifies for $2,500 and then Guild pays the full $3,000, then that student would get $2,500 refund check back, based off the amount of the Pell Grant. So, but I think that's why they do it, because they'll, their intention is to cover the cost of what's left after, like, any federal grants are applied to it. I guess to keep them from overpaying.
So does that show up as an award, just like a Pell Grant has an award, or do they have to accept that award, or
No,
how
I don't.
does?
So yeah, we
Okay.
put that in Pell Grant. They have to accept in student loans, but typically scholarships or those like Guild, we don't. They don't have to accept those. We'll put those in and accept that for them. So, but yeah, it does show as an award, so they could see that information on their financial aid portal as an award.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if nobody in the audience has any more questions, here is all of our contact information for you guys. So please keep in touch with all of us. We would love for you guys to reach out if you have any questions, if you think of anything. We are always answering our emails and are here to answer any questions you guys may think of, and are looking forward to chatting with you guys. You will all receive a recording of the webinar in your emails after it ends. And that way, if you think of anything after, you can reach out and give us your questions. So if nobody else has any questions, that is all that we have for you. And we hope you all have a great night.